On the 20th of September 1958, Isola Ware Corey, a 42-year-old mentally disturbed woman, stabbed Dr. King. And it happened at Bloomstein's department store in Harlem. And the name of the book is called Stride Towards Freedom. So I'm left wondering if he had any type of security, because if he had security, they failed him. So after she walked up to Dr. King and she asked him, "Are you Dr. King?" and he said yes, she proceeded to shove a blade, a letter opener, 7 inches long into the upper left side of Dr. King's chest. And King was rushed to Harlem Hospital, where he underwent more than 2 hours of surgery, emergency surgery, to repair the wound. The letter opener, the tip of it was so close to his heart that if he had only sneezed, it would have been pierced. And once that's pierced, you're a goner. You will bleed internally to death. Corey was born in Adrian, Georgia, and she moved to New York when she was 20 years old. Shortly after her relocation, she found work as a housekeeper and a cook. Unfortunately, she developed paranoid delusions about the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, the NAACP. And she also developed these delusions towards Dr. King and other civil rights leaders. Corey was arrested at the scene, and she was found with a loaded handgun. When she was questioned by police at New York's 28th precinct, she accused the civil rights leaders of boycotting and torturing her, as well as causing her to lose jobs and forcing her to change her religion. So clearly this woman was suffering from some type of delusion as well as paranoia. She also said a dangerous connection was being forged between the civil rights movement and the Communist Party. So those were the reasons she gave for stabbing Dr. King when they questioned her down at the station. So after the police informed her that she was being arrested for felonious assault as well as possession of a firearm, she replied, "I'm charging him for being mixed up with the communists." Dr. King expressed his sincere sympathy for the woman when he learned of her mental state. So then Dr. King put out a statement when he returned home to Montgomery, and he said, "I bear no bitterness towards the woman, and I have felt no resentment from the sad moment that the experience occurred. I know that we want her to receive the necessary treatment," he said, "so that she may become a constructive citizen in an integrated society where a disorganized personality may not become a menace to any man." So after the stabbing, Corey was placed at Bellevue Hospital, a mental hospital, for observation and was found not competent to stand trial. On the 20th of October 1958, she was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia. She was committed to Mattawan State Hospital for the criminally insane. If Dr. King was still alive, as of January 15th, 2023, he would have been 94 years old today. He was only 29 years old when this incident occurred. After spending a good chunk of her life in mental institutions, she was transferred to a nursing home in her latter years when she was an elderly woman. She died at the age of 98 in a nursing home in 2015. In the "I Have a Dream" speech, Dr. King talked about this incident. Let's take a listen.
I want to thank God once more for allowing me to be here with you. You know, several years ago I was in New York City autographing the first book that I had written. And while sitting there autographing books, the minute black woman came up, the only question I heard from her was, "Are you Martin Luther King?" And I was looking down writing and I said yes. The next minute I felt something beating on my chest. Before I knew it, I had been stabbed by this demented woman. I was rushed to Harlem Hospital. morning that if I had merely sneezed, I would have died. Well, about 4 days later, they allowed me, after the operation, after my chest had been opened and the blade had been taken out, to move around in the wheelchair in the hospital. They allowed me to read some of the mail that came in, and from all over the states and the world, kind letters came in. I read a few, but one of them I will never forget. I had received one from the president and the vice president. I've forgotten what those telegrams said. I received a visit and a letter from the governor of New York, but I've forgotten what that letter said. Yes. But there was another letter that came from a little girl, a young girl, who was a student at the White Plains High School. And I looked at that letter and I'll never forget it. It said simply, "Dear Dr. King, I am a ninth grade student at the White Plains High School." She said, "While it should not matter, I would like to mention that I'm a white girl. I read in the paper of your misfortune and of your suffering. And I read that if you had sneezed, you would have died. I'm simply writing you to say that I'm so happy that you didn't sneeze. And I want to say tonight that I too am happy that I didn't sneeze, because if I had sneezed, I wouldn't have been around here in 1960 when students all over the South started sitting in at lunch hours. And I knew that as they were sitting in, they were really standing up for the best in the American dream, taking the whole nation back to those great wells of democracy, which were dug deep by the founding fathers in the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. If I had sneezed, I wouldn't have been around here in 1961 when we decided to take a ride for freedom and ended segregation in interstate travel. If I had sneezed, I wouldn't have been around here in 1962 when Negroes in Albany, Georgia decided to straighten their backs up. And whenever men and women straighten their backs up, they are going somewhere, because a man can't ride your back unless it is bent. If I had sneezed, I wouldn't have been here in 1963. The black people of Birmingham, Alabama, aroused the conscience of this nation and brought into being the Civil Rights Bill. If I had sneezed, I wouldn't have had a chance later that year in August to try to tell America about a dream that I had had. If I had sneezed, I wouldn't have been down in Selma, Alabama to see the great movement there. If I had sneezed, I wouldn't have been in Memphis to see a community rally around those brothers and sisters who are suffering. I'm so happy that I didn't sneeze. And they were telling me. Now it doesn't matter now.
That was part of the I Have a Dream speech. And it was so prophetic because right after that speech, he was assassinated. A lot of people did not realize that would have been his last speech. How could they know that he was going to be assassinated? And it really sent shock waves throughout the nation and worldwide because he was a young man. He wasn't that old. He was 39 years old when he died in 1968. Some people say it's the I Have a Dream speech, but actually it's I've been to the mountaintop. That is the name of the speech. And he did that speech in support of the striking sanitation workers at Mason Temple in Memphis, Tennessee on April 3rd, 1968, the day before he was assassinated. Anyway, guys, drop your comments. Anyway, guys, drop your comments. Let me know what you think about this video. The woman who tried to unalive Dr. King when he was a young man, his first book signing. And of course, the part of I've been to the mountaintop speech. He talks about the little girl writing him the letter he remembered. I'm over and out. Don't forget to hit the like bell and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so as yet. Thank you for watching. I'll see you all in the next one.